Hi, Terry here from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is a fancy fold card. I used the Bonanza Buddies stamp set and coordinating dies and some of the Birthday Bonanza Designer Series papers. And it's a flip card. You pull the tab to reveal each of the panels and then push it back in to close them. Now this card is fairly bulky. I've added some dimension to each of the panels behind each of the gift boxes. So my card today I'm going to do just a little bit different. Now even with its bulk, this card will fit into one of our normal C6 envelopes. I'm not sure about USA and Canada because I haven't got any of your envelopes, so it may be okay, it may be not. Now I personally prefer to create boxes for my cards like this. I haven't created one yet for this one specifically, but this is one I created in an earlier video for this pop-out panel card, and it's the same size that you would need. So I'll add a link at the top right of the screen to another video that shows you how to create a box with this measurement. I'll also add a link to the pop-out panel card just in case you're interested. But today we're just making a flip card, so let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you are interested in reproducing it, you can take a screenshot and refer to it later. I'm going to start by creating the mechanism for the flip. Now I'm using terracotta tile cardstock and I'm going to position it into my Simply scoreboard with the short side across the top and score down at 1 inch from both sides. Then I'm going to turn it so the long side is at the top, and I'm going to score the top and bottom sections only at 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just counting the grooves here. I know 3/4 is the 6th groove along. Now instead of counting them, you could just turn your cardstock over and then score it on the back to get that 3/4 inch score. Still with the long side across the top, you also want to score down, and this is all the way down, at 2.5 inches, 3 inches, 3.5 inches, 4 inches, and lastly 8 inches. Turn your cardstock so you've got the short side across the top again, and that 8-inch score line is at the top. Then you're going to score down to the first score line, so to that 8-inch score line, at 1 3/4 inches from each side. And this time I am turning the cardstock over to get that second score in. And once you've done that, you can go over that score again if you want to. This is what your cardstock should now look like. On the right hand side you've got a 1/2 inch section which is made up of lots of little rectangles. Now this is the side where we're going to create the pull tab. On the left hand side you've got a 3/4 inch section at the top and bottom corners, and those are our fixing tabs to secure the mechanism to the card. Now the section on the right hand side that we scored, that is where we're going to actually create the pull tab. We don't need the sections above and below it. And then on the left hand side, to create those fixing tabs, we just want to cut up the score lines to separate them from the rest of the card. So I'm going to start by doing that. I'm just going to cut up that score line on both sides. Now everything underneath that we can remove. So I'm going to use my trimmer to do that. Now each of the side sections are 1 inch wide, so I'm lining up my right hand edge at 1 inch. I'm aligning the blade with the line that we've already cut, and then I can cut down and then remove that section. Now I just want to repeat that for the other side. So I'm lining up the left hand side this time at 1 inch. Then I can align my blade again with the cut line and cut all the way to the bottom. You should still have 3 rectangles on the right hand side, and we only want to keep the middle one, so you can cut each of the outside ones away. I can then go ahead and fold on all the score lines, and they're all going to be mountain folds, and burnish them with my bone folder. Now when I come to do the fixing tabs, you want to fold the whole mechanism in half and then wrap the fixing tabs around to the back and then burnish them. This is the Bonanza Buddies stamp set, and I'm going to use most of the images and sentiments today. I'll stamp on a piece of normal weight Whisper White card, and I'm starting with the lion. And I'm going to stamp his head and body in Daffodil Delight, and I'll do it twice to get a really good impression. Then I can clean off my stamp, flip my plate around. I've already got these lined up from previous projects, and I'm stamping the mane and the tail using Mango Melody. Then I can turn my plate back around, and this time I'm going to insert it at the top. This is how I've aligned the face with the head, and I'm going to stamp it using Memento Tuxedo black ink, and again I'll do it twice to make sure I get a good impression. I'm stamping my koala bear next, and I'm using crumb cake ink. Now I messed up the first time, so this is my second go at him. Again, I'll stamp him twice to get a good impression. Then I can clean off my stamp and turn my plate over. And I'm going to stamp his face using Memento Tuxedo black ink. And he's done. Finally, I've got the bird, and I'm going to stamp him using Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'll do it twice again. This really does make a difference, and the Stamper Artist is so useful for this. I'm using the Blends alcohol markers to colour the beak, starting with the dark Bermuda Bay, then the dark Mango Melody, and finishing with the dark Daffodil Delight. Then I'll cut these out using the Bonanza dies. For the accessories, starting with the koala, I'm stamping a Bermuda Bay gift box and pom-pom, and then the hat will be in Mango Melody. For the lion, the gift box is in terracotta tile, as is the pom-pom. Now I stamped the hat in Coastal Cabana. It should have been in Bermuda Bay, so I'll stamp another Bermuda Bay one and use the Coastal Cabana one for the bird. Now the bird also needs a Mango Melody gift box and pom-pom. Then all I need to do is add the bows to the gift boxes, and I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink for this. I'll hand cut the gift boxes and the hats and die cut the pom-poms. There is a die for the hat, but I find it quicker to hand cut them. For the flip panels, you will need 4 squares, 1 of Whisper White and 3 of the Bonanza Designer Series paper. You will also need 4 terracotta tiled scallop squares to go underneath them. Now, these were all cut out using the layering square dies. I used the 3rd size down plain square to cut out the Whisper White and the Designer Series paper, and the 3rd size down scallop square to cut out the terracotta tile mats. The white rectangular mat is what the mechanism is going to be fixed onto, so you can see that in my finished card. Now I cut this out using one of the stitched rectangle dies, and again this was the third size down from the largest. I'm now going to stamp the inside sentiment mat, and I'm using first of all the balloon stamp and Daffodil Delight ink, and then I'll switch to Coastal Cabana ink and use the pom-pom stamp. Once this mat is stamped, you just want to mark it measuring from the right hand side 7.2 centimetres or 2 7/8 of an inch. Mark it on the top and the bottom and then block that area off with some scrap card or something. Now the reason for this is that the mat you see on the finished card is actually longer than what you see. So you want to centre the sentiment just on the part that you're going to see. Now I had to make the mat longer to cover the complete panel so that when it's opened and closed, it's not going to catch on the edge of the card, so it'll slide smoothly open and close. I'm going to stamp both the sentiments using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is my favourite black ink. It stays wet for a little longer and you can emboss with it, and it's a lovely intense black colour. So I'm going to stamp it into the middle of that section and then cover with clear embossing powder. And then I'll just put that to one side while I stamp the sentiment on the white square panel. Again, I prepped it with my embossing buddy, and then I'm going to stamp it towards the top of that square and cover with clear powder. Then I can melt the powder with my heat tool. I've gone ahead and layered up the panels I need for the flip mechanism. I've also layered up the panel I need for the front and the inside of my card base. Now my card base is half a standard sheet of terracotta tile cardstock, scored in the middle and folded, and I'm going to use it in landscape orientation today. My front panel is the Birthday Bonanza Designer Series paper on Coastal Cabana cardstock. And then I have a Whisper White mat for the inside, and I've just decorated it with a strip of the paper and a strip of Coastal Cabana card. These two panels can now be added to the card base. Next, I do have to do some fiddly scissor surgery on both my koala and lion's body, and basically all I'm doing is cutting off their arms. Once I've cut them off, I'm going to square off their little paws and just make sure that they're all neat. With the lion, I'm going to cut around to the base of the tail and then chop off his arm, and then just cut off the other one. And again, I'll trim these down to make them neat. I can now put all the small square panels together. I did stamp and cut out some additional gift boxes for this first panel. gift box for the lion was actually too long for him, so I've just trimmed off one of the sections from each end to make it shorter. I can now add the larger sentiment panel to the inside of the mechanism. To create the pull tab, you want to punch out two 1-inch Coastal Cabana circles. Then fold one of them in half and cut it in half. You only need to use one full one and one half. Now the half is going to go on the tab on the mechanism, so you'll need to trim it. But you don't want to trim it too much, just trim it the bare minimum you need so it doesn't show under that half circle. The more you leave on there, the stronger it will be. Then once you're happy, you can glue the half circle to the top, glue the full circle onto the back. The mechanism can now be glued onto the white rectangular panel. Now you want to make sure the tabs are folded round to the back, and when you place it you'll have an even border on the front and back end, and then again on the top and the bottom end. They won't be quite even all the way round, but close enough. Now add glue to the two tabs on the reverse only, and then centre your mechanism on the panel and press it down. Add some foam tape or lots of dimensionals to the reverse. I'm now going to add the 4 panels to the mechanism. Now the bird panel will be glued entirely to that first square section. Then the other 3 panels will only be glued on the left hand side. So I'm adding glue to my bird panel, and then I'll place that onto that first section. Next, I'm going to add glue to the panel above it. So it's just that 1/2 inch strip, and then I can press my image panel onto it. You don't want to take the glue right to the edge, just leave a thin border so you shouldn't get it oozing out of the sides. I've placed my third panel and then my last panel. So they're just attached on the left hand side. Then all I have to do is remove the backing from my foam tape and position my mechanism panel onto the front of my card. And that's it, my card is complete. Super cute card. I'm quite happy with the gift boxes glued flat. I think it looks perfectly fine. If you've got any sticky that's causing the mechanism to stick a bit, just go over the panels with your embossing buddy. And here's another look at my original card. This one is a little more dimensional, so it's a little more bulky, but not too much so. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.